and welcome to the new podcast. This podcast is a long new podcast, I believe, because after venturing into a lot of corporate leadership, which were talked about mindfulness into corporate world, I'm directly going to the source where we can incorporate techniques of meditation and philosophy which can guide us towards a true mindfulness and a true space where you can build a mind resilience. So, wisdom seed has always been into the sphere where we are marrying both the ancient wisdom and the corporate world together in such a way that it would make a powerful mindset for any leadership who is into the process of making his impact or her impact into the world of materialism or even a corporate world and even a spiritual realm. So today we have with us Dr. Rajesh Savera. He has been into this particular domain from past 2 decades almost. He is an Ayurveda expert, has been into corporate world and guiding a lot of leaderships in terms of how Shunya practice can be incorporated into their real life and how those results can be implemented into the life which is full of obstacles, where stress and anxiety is a daily part of their life, and how this philosophy can work along their side. So, Doctor, thank you so much for giving your valuable time. Our audience would be very much enlightened with the kind of wisdom that you hold from past 2 decades, and we will love to get that particular story from you.
Thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast, and hope the wisdom seeds that we can share now sprouts into the the minefield of the listeners, and maybe their life betters through our conversation.
Surely, surely, definitely. So the first question that I want to ask is, and definitely everybody who is listening to you, that how your journey in this field or the realm of spiritualism, and especially with Shunya philosophy, how it started.
Yeah. So I think there is a beginning to everything that you see today. And for me, what I am now has its roots long time back in my early part of my life. As a young boy, we lived in a very difficult times. Uneducated parents and dreams of having their children educated. The struggle of meeting two opposite ends is not easy, and that's where the journey began. And I seeing the struggle of life that the parents put in to make sure that they could fulfill the dreams that they have for their children was one thing. That first step of cultivating awareness had begun in me. I could see pain and suffering within my own family for the efforts that they were putting to better the life of their own children. And I think that awareness was the first seed that set up the series of questions that came in. And the whole journey of questioning every stage of my life till the time I actually started to realize that some things are given and some things can be given, and what has been given you have to receive. And what can be given can be something that you can, and you can choose to really, really give based on what the people need. And the first one to receive was the suffering, that poverty was what I received. But will I live with it? No. I wanted to give back to myself and my family beyond something, And I realized education was the key, so I became a student. Then I realized doing my duty was a key, so I became an employee. I started working. I realized that giving a little identity and name to my family, so I made sure I became a physician, a doctor. So somewhere or the other, everything was to give something to someone, and that's the journey.
Great, great. So that has incorporated from the feeling of giving.
Yeah.
So as far as we know, the brief history of Shunya, it goes back to Buddhism, and it has been enrooted into our culture for such a long time, but it has been eroded and forgotten in past history that we have been living in Indian culture right now. So when we look at this particular philosophy, and we always have this particular understanding that it is more of a no culture. It talks about the pain, the dukkha more, and people have certain kind of retaliation toward this kind of philosophy. But when you have seen and experienced for your own self, how do you pinpoint or how do you bring that particular philosophy in today's world, which is making it more contemporary more adaptable to the diverse culture that we have in India right now. Because I have seen the core functioning of Shunya philosophy, that uh, we don't uh, we don't categorize people into religion or form worshipping or any of those things. So that has really fascinated me, that it is only one technique where you are unified
Hmm.
on a very ground level. So I want to listen about that on that little part.
Yeah, very nicely said. That India was the seed through which the whole tree of Shunya started to spread around the world. Unfortunately, people have forgotten its roots, and Shunya today is very well practiced as, Chan in China or Zen in Japan and other areas. But to understand the core, for anything to manifest, there has to be certain basic philosophical principle. And you look at the numerological science, the numbers, the science of numbers. Your numbers 1 to 9 have value. Then
Right.
you suddenly, to make them more valuable, you add something that has no value and you put
Right.
in a zero. And that thing which has nothing to take and nothing to give, but when it becomes an ingredient of everything, it suddenly starts manifesting. And you see, look at the binary numbers 1 and 0. It gives up rise to all the computing in the world.
Right.
So this nothing and everything, it's the two, extremes under which everything exists. Okay, and that's the loop of infinity also.
Right.
Now, when you talk about what is the source or the base of Shunya, it all begins with my teacher. His name is Datuk Lim Xiao Jin. He's a Zen master. In his way, he has been successfully able to apply the principles of Shunya into his life and build a $2.8 billion enterprise listed on the stock exchange of Malaysia. So it is application of what that philosophy was that brings about transformation.
Right.
And it was based on a very simple philosophy of non-differentiation.
Right.
And as you said, India is a country of diversity. But if you look at it, it survived and lived in diversity
Right.
for so long because underlying that diversity was one simple principle of non-differentiation.
Right.
And that's the seed. Even today, if we can apply in our life, there will be diversity for sure, but on the base or the foundation of non-differentiation.
Great, great. So, if I just want to talk about the principle and the core principle of Shunya philosophy, so what are those principles? I want you to mention
Yeah.
those for the listeners.
So what my teacher did was he made it very simple. So based on a very ancient text, the world's first printed book called as the Vajrachedika Pragyaparamita Sutra, in English called as the Diamond Sutra. So this book had the basis of nothingness in it, the shunyata in it. And from there, he extracted the 9 no's. It has the 3 no's, 3 nons, and the 3 nothings. Okay, so based on that, we let me read this out for you. The 3 no's is, we, in practice of Shunya, we know that the form can be differentiating. Hence, your belief in any form can lead you to differentiate each other.
Right.
So, no idol and no statue was the first principle that we started to follow. So, even though we are learning and teaching and sharing the wisdom of Buddha, but hardly or you'll never see a Buddha statue or a Buddha image around us. We don't keep that. Okay, because at the core we realize and believe that Buddhahood is within us.
Right.
You and me are on the journey of becoming one someday. Okay, that's the ultimate purpose of life. So we have no idol or statue as one of the things. Then we have no religious building or structure. So you'll never have a structure that we'll build called as this is the Shunya Center or something like that. Anywhere we find a place where we can sit, anywhere we find people, we will talk. So that's the journey that we will be doing in terms of the structure. So we'll never have a religious structure or a religious building. We'll never do that. And then we don't have any chanting or mantra. And that is very important because that's where the differentiation comes in. They call in the God and they call in the name of all the things that they believe in. And when somebody else calls it with some other name, you started to get offended and you start to differentiate. So no chanting, no mantra still remains the core of our this. These 3 no's: the no idol, no statue, or no religious building or structure, and no chanting or mantra are the
Mm.
core,
Mm.
on which then we move on to the three nons.
Right.
The nons are non-concerned about
Mm.
one's belief.
Mm.
What he wants to believe or what the other person wants to believe, it is his choice.
Mm.
And we let them live with that choice. This is where love and compassion
Right.
starts to cultivate, Then you have the non-concern about
Mm.
food.
Mm.
We don't, want to know what kind of food somebody is eating, because that kind of food is his livelihood. It is his survival thing. And we
Right.
should respect whatever somebody is eating. He could be a vegetarian, he could be a non-vegetarian.
Right.
We respect their choices.
Mm.
Again,
Mm.
love and compassion is born from that. And then we have the non-concern about rituals.
Mm.
Every region, every culture has a particular way of celebrating,
Mm.
and they celebrate this often through a ritualistic practice. We should respect everybody's
Mm.
joy and
Mm.
happiness.
Mm.
We should not tell them that your happiness and joy should be celebrated in my way.
Right.
No, it should be celebrated in your way. Maybe somebody is happy in
Mm.
burning crackers and calling that Diwali.
Mm.
Somebody says, sitting under a tree and celebrating the full moon night is the way I celebrate my happiness. So you respect both ways. So
Mm.
that is how respect follows.
Right.
And then we have the three nothings, where we never claim that we are teaching you anything. So nothing to teach.
Mm.
Because a teacher can say that if she's teaching something, then she's forcing something.
Mm.
You don't teach because you want to teach. You teach because somebody wants to learn,
True.
right? So here it is very important that I have nothing to
Mm.
teach. That's what
Mm.
Buddha said.
Mm.
But you have everything to learn from the teacher.
Mm.
It's about you, what you can take from the flowing river of knowledge that is there. And that's what Buddha gave to us. Okay, so nothing to teach, nothing to achieve. If an association is built on the basis of something to achieve, it's already a gang
Right.
planning a plan, to
Mhm.
execute something. But
Right.
when you look, there is nothing to achieve. That company itself is so fulfilling and happy. That's the journey of love and bonding that is already started, and the Sangha has begun.
Right.
And Buddha said that when we have nothing to achieve,
Mhm.
that's where you can achieve so many things. Okay. And then finally, no one to save. I and you cannot save anyone. The only responsibility to save is ourselves. And
Right.
hence, a journey begins with ourselves and it ends with ourselves. And the way we do that is by associating with everything that is our responsibility, doing our duty. And that's
Mm.
exactly what, as you said, the materialism, the world of rupa, that's where we have to start working on.
Right. Right. Very profound, Doctor. So this is for the listeners who are with the lock in their mind that why, or if I enter into Shunya meditation or practice, what are the prerequisites? Because a lot of many people would have that thing in their mind that I have to be a vegetarian, I have to have a certain kind of a diet or rituals or certain kind of, even if we are wearing certain kind of clothes, that also makes a certain kind of a lock into audience or a listener's mind or a practitioner who want to get into this particular field. So it's a really, I think it's a breaking of the glass seal that is there, that we are not putting any of ritual parameters, any obligations. It is just you being yourself, and you are blossoming, or you're not even blossoming, you're just being there.
Yeah.
So that is more of a profound way of putting that, because I have read about those things and I wanted you to say it through yourself, because our audience would be also enlightened in that particular part. So great. I think that was one of the most important, what I can say, the foundation on which the entire experience would be built, rather than having any attachment to any experience that is there.
True,
Great.
true. But as you said, where there is nothing that we want, and we are saying about the nine no's, there are five things we do follow. But
Yeah.
okay, that is something that, because on one side you say no, but
Mm.
there should be a yes on some side also. Otherwise,
Mm.
you'll fall on the side of nihilism or nothingness. It will completely fall over. And
Right.
then what needs to be done is there has to be something yes.
Wow.
So the choices should be on the yes side also. And
Right.
that's where the Panchashil come in. And the five principles, the moral principles that make you a human being,
Mhm.
that comes in. And that we ask people to try to follow as much as you can.
Right, right. So you have talked about the binary, that one and zero. So usually we have this kind of a mental bias, or I would say a bias in our mind, that we always try to pick the extremes. And because mind loses its track when it is in middle, because mind always want to be in extreme, because that is most stimulating environment for him for existence. But when it comes to shunya, where we are just peeling off the onion, and getting to the core of it. And at the end of the peeling of the onion, we find there is nothing, there is Shunya. So, in this profound way of looking at any meditation, if a person wants to understand that what I'm going to gain, because that is what every person will start this journey as, because nobody wants to start a journey for nothingness.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, that as you said, that there is a one and zero, and in between there is some principles. So this principle that we talk about, what those principle would be, giving you in return when you follow those principles, because I think that is a value add in
Yeah.
the life.
So as you said, there so many things we say we don't know, no, no, no.
Mm.
But in this no, there is many you get also. Like when a person is making a sculpture,
Right,
he's taking a chisel and a hammer,
right.
and he's actually what he's doing is he's trying to remove something.
Mm.
He's trying to remove something. He's saying, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. And he's keeping on trying to do that. But in the process of removing everything that he doesn't want, he gets exactly what he wants, the
Right,
statue, the idol that he wanted,
right.
right? Similarly is the mind. When the mind wants to perceive a goal or
Mhm, mhm,
accomplish a task,
mhm.
it usually gets distracted because it does not have the nature to remain concentrated. But you need to train the mind. But
Right.
once how do you train the mind to be in a state of concentration?
Mhm.
Is by not letting it get distracted.
Right.
So when you say no, 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 at the end, it gets one thing. That's the goal that it had set out for. And
Mhm.
hence, whenever we say no, it sounds very nihilistic,
Right.
but it is very, very positive. And as you said, the mind has a tendency to go to the extremes. And as soon as it comes in the middle, it's a state of concentration. And that's where the real focus and the magic begins.
So can you just elaborate on the five principles that we are talking
Yeah.
about?
So now when we say talk about how to get your mind concentrated,
Right.
so the only thing is like the five horses. If you have
Mm.
seen the Ratha of Arjuna and Krishna,
Right.
okay,
Mm.
these five horses are like these five sense organs,
Sense organs.
and you see these horses have to be restrained
Mhm.
through the
Mhm.
reins,
Mhm.
right? That's exactly what you need to do. Our senses are actually, controlled by the mind.
Mhm.
Mind tends to favor the senses,
Mm.
because to keep the senses happy is what the mind wants to do
Mhm.
technically. So it wants to feed these senses with whatever food it needs. So
Mhm.
it wants the
Mhm.
eye to see,
Mm.
it wants the ear to hear,
Mm.
it wants the nose to smell, the
Mm.
tongue to taste, the skin to feel. And
Mhm.
it, because it wants that, and it wants to please that, it wants to make it more comfortable. So it wants the eyes to see something good,
Good.
okay, the ears to hear something good, the nose to smell something good, the
Mm.
tongue to taste something good, and the skin to feel something good.
Mm.
But where is this goodness coming from? It
Coming from
roots from the mind.
mind.
Mind is the one that decides good and
Mm.
bad.
Mm.
Mind says this and that.
Mm.
It's the mind that says, I like this, I don't
Mm.
like this.
Mm.
Okay. Then it's the mind who is running or
Mm.
driving these senses.
Mhm.
And hence, we are talking about restraint.
Mhm.
And this mind restraint is very nicely put in the Pali, you can say, rhythmic way in the
Mhm.
Panchashil. So
Mhm.
he says, Panatipata Veramani
Mhm.
Sikkapadam
Samadhyam.
Samadhyami.
Mm.
So, Panatipata means when your mind has this craving to
Mm.
destroy somebody's life, Pran ka apitap karna, if
Mm.
that is what your mind wants to do,
Mhm.
at that time, Sikkapadam, remember what I have taught.
Right.
Sikkapadam means that
Remember.
the pad
Path.
that I have
Mm.
taught, okay? And Samadhiyami. Samadhiyami means bring it to balance,
Samadhi.
bring it to neutrality.
Mm.
So the work has to be done mentally.
Mm.
So this is the pause before the action.
Mm.
This is not a reaction, this is a response. So
Mm.
you become more responsive towards life. So one is Panatipata Veramani, Sikkapadam Samadhiyami. Then is Adina Dana Veramani, Sikkapadam
Samadhyam.
Samadhiyami. Means Adina Dana means a dana which is not given to
Mm.
you. Something that is not given to you, don't take.
Mm.
Okay, then comes Kamesu Michachara, Veramani Sikkapadam Samadhiyami. Kamesu Michachara means because of your karma, because of your desire, if you have Mithya Achara, means you have your behavior changes.
Changes. Right.
That you should think about my words before acting,
Mm.
and then try to balance that also. Okay, bring that to neutrality. And the fourth one is Musavada Veramani, Sikkapadam Samadhiyami. Means moodvad.
Mm.
If you are speaking like a man who has lost his sense,
Mm.
gossiping, lying, and all those things, think before you speak by remembering my verse and trying to bring that to neutrality. And finally, he says that Sura Meria Majja Pramadthana Veramani Sikkapadam Samadhi Yami. That means those days, Sura Meria Majja, these were all drinks of those days, and like you have beer, alcohol, and all those things. In those days, people used to take that for pramad. Means where you lose your own sense awareness. If anything like that comes in your mind, remember this verse of mine and bring yourself to that equilibrium. So you look at this, it's nothing but about watching your own thoughts, watching your own behavior, watching your own actions, and this watching is transformation.
Wow. So I remember this quote that was there. I've heard about that. Emotion should not be your goods, or it has to be value. And within values, when you have emotions as your goal, your travel path is very shortened, or your travel path is in circles. So you are not reaching everywhere. You feel like you have traveled miles and thousands of miles, but you are still in circles. But when you have a value that has been assigned to your travel path, definitely there would be times where you would be dipped into sadness. It would be time it would be you would be heightened to the the bliss of that particular achievement. But as we go along with this particular values, definitely there would be a lot of, as you said, there would be a chisel and a hammer that would be already started, chiseling off what is not untrue in you, it has been attached for so many years of your living. It might be living from the kind of culture that we live in, because as soon as a child is born, he, you know, incorporates, or it has been reinforced on him that if you want to be associated with this kind of culture, you have to, acquire those kind of qualities or acquire those kind of beliefs. When we come to this particular Shunya philosophy, it talks about just peeling it off. And not even peeling it off. You don't have to do it with a sheer force, but just an awareness. Where I felt like when we had this particular session, when I have seen your YouTube videos, and it talks about having a meditation technique which is built upon not going inside, but having a balance, as you said, that Buddha says, come to equilibrium. And that is a very profound word, because a lot of us would be in the in a mindset that I have to get lost somewhere. I have to just dilute, and it is same as distraction and same as intoxication, because what you do when you are agitated with your emotions, you try to distract it, you try to suppress it, either by your mobile phones, by your alcohol, or any other distraction that is there in your life. But getting back to equilibrium, that is where people struggle. They don't know what real equilibrium is. And when they look at spiritualism, when I was looking at this particular journey, and we had this discussion a week or 2 week back, that spiritualism is always looked as being non-materialistic, not being robust, not being successful. It is all about uh, getting this the annihilation, that I have to just give away everything that I have of value, and I have to be like a monk. So that is one of the thing that a lot many people has a kind of a negative connotation, that they walk with this kind of philosophy. And if we talk about the founder and the Mr. Lim sir, he has been a successful, and he is still on the path. He is right now, and he is expanding as we talk. And as we are recording this podcast, he would be on second venture of his new business venture. So how this philosophy is empowering this kind of mindset, still at the core, it is all about detachment. So this kind of contradictory, I think a lot many people would confuse it. I know this topic is a vast one, but if you want to give a glimpse to a person who is going to come in, and you always give the example of sharpening a knife, then that's something that the audience would say.
You see, people, who use sharp instruments,
Right.
they should know that it needs to be sharp, because every time you use it, it's going to get blunt and blunt and blunt.
Right.
One of the things that you use is your mind in everything, right? When you don't use it, people will tell you you've lost your mind, or you're not using your mind. You don't like that statement, right? Because you suddenly become careless. We tell people to use their minds. Minds means be aware with your senses what you're doing. And that's exactly, you should understand, if mind is a object that you're using again and again, because mind, like the other five senses, is a sixth sense organ. Many people don't know this. In like medical college, we are not taught the mind, we're taught about the five sense organs. But it's in the teachings of the Buddha that I got to know that the mind itself is a sense organ,
Right.
and its subject is, or the object is thoughts. And so mind, like your eyes see something, the mind thinks something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a thing, like it's a sense organ. So you sense your thoughts because of your mind. You see things because of your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So because you see things, you are aware that you have an eye.
Right.
Because you hear sound, you know that you got ears.
Right.
Similarly, because you're able to think, you got a mind.
Right.
Now, mind, even that, see, if your eyes become weak, you cannot see clearly.
Mm.
If your ears become weak, you cannot hear clearly.
Right.
If your mind becomes blunt, you cannot think clearly.
Right.
And many people today have thinking problem. They are not able to think clearly.
True.
And because they cannot think clearly, they are always in all sorts of troubles.
Mm.
Not able to judge rightly,
Mm-hmm.
not able to take decisions rightly, not able to fulfill their goals rightly. And that's exactly what we tell, that you need to sharpen your mind. And as you said, it's like the knife. You sharpen your mind through a practice.
Mm.
And this practice, if you see, sharpening is like this, right?
Mm.
Front, back, on both sides of it. So it's called samatha vipassana. Samatha vipassana. To you make it static, dynamic, static, dynamic.
Wow.
So we do this manthan,
Wow.
churning, and through the churning of the you can say the curd,
Mm.
you get all the butter.
Mm.
Similarly, when you practice meditation
Mm.
in this particular way,
Mm.
you are taking out the essence of the mind, and that essence is to stay focused, to stay sharp, and to be always aware.
Wow. Wow. So when today's generation, or I think it has been a very classic or evolutionary kind of a question, where we see as inner peace or spiritual practice as a kind of a luxury. How you think that Shunya Samadhi or Sunya philosophy would make a kind of a dent in everybody's life by practicing certain principles, which are just like we talked about, four core principles that, or four core values. So how you can put that? It is not a luxury, but a necessity. It is a kind of a self care, because we usually go ahead and mix them with terminologies and which are very alien to us,
Mhm.
to a contemporary mind, I would say, because we never see, shunyata or some kind of word that is being utilized the way we are utilizing so easily. But when it comes to a world where 70% people are not aware of this particular part, which is lost and which has gone into our backgrounds and in our attics, I would say, of our minds. So how we can bring this, because at least it has to have surface, it has to have certain kind of, I would say, a prompt that would be there. So how we can bring those values just at the base level, and then we
Yeah.
can start to deepening it.
I think, just imagine somebody in your friend circle
Mhm.
buys a Ferrari car.
Yeah,
Will that impress you?
definitely.
Yeah. Would you feel like buying one for yourself?
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That man having his luxury makes the other feel that I also need that luxury.
Mm-hmm.
And during Buddha's time,
Mm.
peace was a luxury.
Wow.
And that peace was visible on Buddha's face.
Right.
And everybody saw this guy has that Ferrari look, of peace, that
Mm.
luxury that he's carrying along with all the distress around.
Mm.
People fighting for water on the river between kings and kingdoms, people fighting within themselves for basic necessities of life. And
Mm.
there was this man
Mm.
who seemed to be satisfied and happy and at peace.
Right.
And the joy that he glowed through his skin or his face, through his talk,
Mm.
made people envious and want to become like him. And
Right.
that's exactly what the luxury that people wanted. The kings wanted it, the most commoner wanted it.
Mm.
And Buddha made it available for everyone.
Right.
That this is what I found,
Mm.
and I give it to you
Mm.
if you would follow this way.
That's
And
nice.
this is exactly what I believe, if
Mm. Mm.
we, you and me, we carry that peace
Mm.
within, because
Mm.
I think that, only times have changed, but the things in that time have not changed. People till now suffer like the way that
Yeah,
time they
right.
suffered, right? So even now, when they see a man at peace with that joy feeling in his words, in
Mm.
his action, everybody would be seeking for that luxury that this man has.
Mm.
And I think the way, as you said, which is that hook, or which is that tip that somebody can just identify and become able to access that luxury, is first is ourselves. We have to become one of them,
Mm-hmm.
which we want the others to become. So
Mm-hmm.
we first have to do it for ourselves, then let the world see, because what they see, they
Mm-hmm.
will do.
Right. Because what this is so profound, doctor, because I feel like when I interact with a lot of the Gen Zs and all the alphabets are from the alphas and betas that are going to come in future, and they usually have this kind of at the core they have this kind understanding that yes, self is important, but they are a little bit of deluded in terms of getting it validated. No matter, like, I'm a self, I'm going to reach to myself. People are very vocal about their preferences when it comes to experiencing the world or senses, but when it comes to selves, they want to create that self, but they want to get that validated by the society, and the validation itself is governed by the societal standards. And definitely everybody is not a cookie cutter. You don't have a cookie cutter kind of a mold. We are so unique in our shapes, and when we try to compare those with the validation of the society, how Shunya's philosophy talks about that, how it sees that particular validation outside of yourself, and how it try to understand or engulf in such a way that would be simple for our audience to understand.
Yeah. So to make this simple, uh, a person with a non-differentiation philosophy at its core,
Mm-hmm.
who works with the society,
Mm-hmm.
will have the least confrontation.
Yes.
And with least confrontation, there is acceptance. And
Mm-hmm.
with acceptance, there is always going to be a relationship that will be built towards prosperity.
Right.
So the fact that somebody says me and myself, that self, race for being different than others, is the race where everything is lost. But the race, if is that, if at the core it is non-self, it's not about only me, it's everything that is around me, or I'm responsible for things, and then suddenly it's beyond me,
Right.
beyond the self.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the self grows to become the greater self.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the transformation, the acceptance, the
Mm-hmm.
everything happens. Like
Mm-hmm.
zero,
Mm-hmm.
value is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But with every number, it just blends so well
Mm-hmm.
and increases its value.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, imagine carrying a personality, carrying a thinking, carrying a philosophy which just goes and betters somebody's life. You think that person will not be valuable? He will
Definitely.
be the most valuable person. He'll be the most sought after the
Sort of.
person.
Yes. Yes.
Look at, I'll give you an example of an actor like Shah Rukh Khan.
Mm.
Technically, he is a superstar only because he carries this, principle of non-differentiation within.
Right.
He will be, I'm sure, at the core where he's working in the sets,
Mm-hmm.
where he's doing the shoot,
Mm.
he would be even talking and mixing up with the light boy
Right.
and the cameraman.
Mm.
He would be doing, and he'll be one with everyone. The director, he would never differentiate, and that is why he would be the most loved person.
Mm.
So when he comes along, there is life in that
Mm.
particular
Mm.
area, in that particular work they do. So find out that person. Is that you that is
Mm.
bringing life to any
Mm.
activity, a team effort or something,
Mm.
a company that you're doing, a family that you're a part of?
Mm.
Are
Mm.
you that source of joy
Mm.
that binds everybody
Right.
together? If you are that, then you're on the path of Shunya.
Definitely. So it is so evident that people are practicing those particular principles knowingly, unknowingly, without going towards the credit of who has invented it. Because I think it is a treasure that has been cherished by every humanity, whoever is ready to learn, as you said. And definitely this one quality where we have to understand that yes, the inclusiveness and the absolute inclusiveness. I think where we say non-permanence,
Mm-hmm.
the permanence when it comes to the principle of it. A very beautiful example was that there is a table. Imagine there is a table, and if you remove one leg of it, do you still call it a table? You go back to the the origin of it. Like, what is table? Table is made of wood. What wood is made of? Tree. Tree. What is tree made of?
Yeah.
Soil and everything. And then you go back and you see that everything is connected. When you have this sense of connectivity, and I think the inclusionness comes from the sense of connectivity, because unless and until you are not feeling connected, because our culture is more of diversifying, individualizing as much as possible so that you can stand on the top of the pyramid,
Mm-hmm.
which would be a kind of a value system, which is in terms of different part, but I think it already flourishes when you start working on yourself. Why Shah Rukh Khan is identified, or we say he has a less haters, or Abdul Kalam, why he has been having a less haters, is all because of the kind of personality they have portrayed, not kind of achievement. Because he have all the wealth that a person can imagine of, bad wealth, but we are not jealous about it.
Yeah. That
That's the
we are happy
important.
about
We're
it.
happy about these. We're celebrating
We're
it.
proud, and
Yeah,
we are so proud to even quote him.
quote him. Yeah,
We talk about him.
yeah.
Because
Ratan
not,
Tata.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So there are these
Mm,
people whom we are very happy to talk about, share about, give them as examples, make
mhm.
them as idol for people to follow,
Right.
is because they have a value system.
Value system.
And that one thing underlined is inclusivity, as you said, or non-differentiation at the
Differentiation.
core. And as you said, interconnectedness.
Mm,
When you understand interconnectedness, you will also understand impermanence.
right.
You understand?
Right.
So nothing is dependent on only one thing,
Mm,
but everything is dependent on some other thing. When you understand this, then you realize that when you're an employee in a company,
mm,
you are important and
mm.
equally you're unimportant.
Right.
That humbles you, But it also gives you a job responsibility that you have to do something.
Do something about it.
Okay, so then the
Mm,
fear of losing out, what will they happen, and everything goes. The anxiety of being competitive, winning over,
mm,
goes away.
mm,
You then just become a contributor,
mm.
and one who can contribute, the organization tributes him
Right.
and says that yes, because of
Mm,
you, we
mm,
have had a change,
mm.
and those people in the organization, they all will benefit because of your contribution.
Great. Great. So the next question that comes, a lot of young generation or whoever it is, like I think the non-attachment that we talk about, and when it comes to non-attachment, and we all are into relationship, interpersonal relationship with our non-material material things, everything is related, okay? But as we say, it is interconnected, and within the interconnectedness, we usually have that kind of authority that comes along, the ownership that comes along. Because if it is interconnected to you, somewhere I feel a kind of an ownership is developed. And when Shunya talks about non-attachment, it is so contradictory. We have that kind of why every time Buddha would talk about certain kind of principle, and then he would contradict it. Why there is such kind of as we call as there is a binary. So there is a shunya, there is a one. You will get one, you will lose one. You will get one, you will lose one. So when it comes to non-attachment in a relationship, and I think a lot many audience would be in that particular phase as well, who see a lot of breakups that are happening. The relationship dynamic is changing like anything. The landscape is like helter skelter. So how Shunya philosophy can give that kind of sense of non-attachment? How it
Yeah.
can guide on that?
So imagine you're running a shop
Right.
and you have a weighing scale. You remember the olden days, they
Yeah.
had this weighing scale, and somebody comes and asks you, give me 2 kgs of tomatoes, right?
Mhm.
Then the first thing, what do you do? Okay, that's the expectation. Okay,
Yeah.
now I'm just giving you an
Yeah.
example. So you put on one part of the weighing scale, you put your standard of 2 kgs, weighing
Mm, mm,
weight, and now as soon as you put that, it goes down.
mm,
This is up.
mm.
Okay, this is the expectation you have.
Right.
Now you suddenly put in the tomatoes,
Mm.
1, 2, 3, and you watch at the scale,
Yeah.
so that it comes in the between, right? Because it has gone here. Now you're watching here, you're keeping on putting. But when you know it goes here, you remove. Because
Right.
if you give him more, you're at loss.
Loss, right.
Okay. If you give him less, he's not going to leave you.
Right.
Right? So what you do is you play with it. You
Mm.
play with the tomatoes. You don't play with your expectation.
Expectations. Wow.
Okay. Now what you do is play.
Mm.
Remove what is more,
Mm.
add in if it's less,
Mm.
make sure there is the balance with the
Mm.
expectation that you had set out.
Mm.
If everybody learns to look at that scale in this manner, they
Mm.
will realize that to add, to remove,
Mm.
this is a non-attachment. But
Mm.
to have yourself fixed that I'm giving you only this much, you take,
Mm.
or giving it this much and there's no questions asked,
Mm.
that is attachment. That's not wrong.
Right.
That's not right. I
Right.
mean, you have to know how to balance the scale.
Mm.
To add and remove is the art of non-attachment.
Wow, this was a profound
Mm.
example, because I think lot much of us would always look at the countering way. Okay? We can't see at the equilibrium, as you have rightly said, because the bania who is doing that, he will always have the eyes on the scale where it is balancing,
Yeah,
the pointer,
yeah,
we will see. And I think that is very important. When you get into relationship, you definitely have to have a certain kind of distance, not a distance in terms of not being intimate enough,
It
not
should
being
be space.
space, yeah, because
Yeah.
it would always allow you. Swami Vivekananda has given a very good example, which I really quote, and I have exhausted quoting it. It is about how the honeybee drinks the honey. It never enters into the honey directly. It will always have its extended bee, which will
Yeah.
poke into it, and it will
Pick
drink
out the
honey.
yeah.
Because she knows that if she gets into the honey, it is a sticky affair.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's going to like, she's going to stick to that, and she's going to die there. Because the same thing happens. The more you get involved and attached to the outcome of any relationship or any action that you take in, so the non-attachment also have to the principle, like, is it balanced?
Yeah, and there should be space.
Space.
Sometimes we tend to enter into a space which is not right. That's when the problem started. So there has to be. Now imagine this is a weighing scale. Now you tell me, when this is in balance, which is the shortest space between both? This one, or when it is in imbalance?
Imbalance.
The imbalance one is the space which is shortest, or the balance one which is the shortest? Exactly. The distance between this is the shortest,
Right.
and this is the longest. People, they don't realize when they have started to distance them itself, there is already an imbalance.
Wow.
When they have actually, when equilibrium comes, there is no distance. This is the closest one, and it's like you come to that point where everything just seems perfect. Imagine a relationship like that, where it's perfect in every aspect. And that is the quest that everybody wants in a relationship. Everybody wants in the job they do. Everybody wants in the desires they have, the dreams. Everybody wants to achieve that right space.
Right.
The closest between what the expectation was and what they have achieved. But life is not so easy. The scale keeps on moving up and down. So that means the scale keeps on moving up and down with the weight that you have put yourself into. Your job is to make sure you keep on changing or adding or deleting certain things from your life, so that at one point your pointer, as you said, remains in the middle.
Right.
And that is when it is in the middle, we call it Shunya.
Because we have this kind of a song that the lyrics goes that when heart breaks, it doesn't break even.
Never.
So, yeah, it never breaks even, because everybody has a different set of expectation altogether, and we think that a proper closure has to be there.
Yeah.
And I think it is all because we mingled so much. Because as you said, the space has been the distance is so much that we are not able to communicate. We are not able to communicate with ourselves when we are in a relationship, or the other person, and that creates a kind of a murky kind of a reality, which doesn't has a kind of separation and an involvement. Because I think even if you take example of a neurons in brain itself, they also have certain gap. They're not touched to each other.
No, they're not. They actually work through a neurotransmitter. Acetylcholine is one that carries electrical impulses from one neuron to the other. So there is space. Space has, you imagine, space is like pause between two words. Right? Space is between when two words you write. If you have to put that space is needed. If there is no space, nothing can move. Right? So space is the key for us to move on with life. And if people understand how much space, but not, you cannot keep one word here and another word here. That is also not right. So coming it, that needs to be perfect. But how do you do that? How do you get your mind to do what is perfect? And when to pause, when to speak, when to think, when not to think, when to accept, when not to accept, when to let go, when to attach. That is what your mind needs to be trained into. And this is where the Shunya practice comes in, which is a 7-step practice, which one step at a time, we will program your mind, will condition your mind, because mind gets conditioned, so that it performs what it has to perform.
Right. Because if two words are too closer to each other, it will become a noise.
Absolutely.
Because one word after one, overlapping each other, it will be a noise.
Maybe you cannot even decipher the meaning of what it is written in.
The conversation is all over.
All over, yeah.
Because we have to see where is the pause, where is the words, where are the sentences, where is the question. So all those things, I think the sharpening of the mind. Because even conversation require a certain kind of sharpness, because understanding, listening, as we talk into management skill, that you have to be active listeners. How this active listener would come in place, because your mind is sharp. Because only a blunt mind would make a mistake of misunderstanding words and understand conversation or any kind of aggression as just a noise. There's a lot of miscommunication that happens. It is all because of the aggression that is involved, but there is also a message in it.
Yeah.
If a leader in front of us who is able to understand, or a colleague, for instance, who understand that though there is an aggression, there is a feedback, there is an information, there is some kind of feelings, and if I stay calm and composed and I don't get involved, detached, I would be able to understand all those things and I would be able to communicate far more better.
Absolutely.
But when it would happen, it would be when his mind is sharp enough in that.
Absolutely.
So that is a very profound example.
Sometimes I feel the world is here to offer so much, but everybody is suffering kind of a Parkinson's condition. Their hands are shaking. They go with a bowl, okay, and somebody is serving them milk, but they carry the milk, but by the time they're going to drink, it's all over.
Right.
It's spilled out.
Right.
Okay, only the one with a stable hand gets his bowl full and he's enjoying the whole bowl of milk. So a stable mind in this world of opportunity is your key for prosperity. A stable mind.
Right.
And you need to have a technique to make your mind stable. You just cannot say, today I decide and it can be stable. No ways. You see, when you're in the class, when we were young children, we thought we are paying attention to the teacher when she's teaching. Okay, but suddenly we realized we did not hear what she's speaking because our mind wandered on the playground somewhere. Okay, when you see, the mind can be with one sense organ at a time. If it is with the eyes and the eyes is seeing something, it will go and only look there. Your ears will get deaf. Right. You will not be able to hear. If you're listening to something, you will miss on what you saw.
Right.
Many times you, oh sorry, I did not see what you were saying. Or something like this happens because your mind keeps on toggling between these sense organs. And this is exactly what we say through awareness. That is why in our practice, we have no sound, we have no smell, we have no visuals, we have no feelings of touch or something. We don't need a particular kind of environment. We have nothing to even chew on, no sensory thing. Because there is no sensory input, the mind has nothing to even think on and achieve a state of no thinking or a non-conceptual state of mind where it is purely the mind doing, waiting for an instruction to be given to do something. It's like, imagine you have a genie, okay, who is ready to do everything, but the genie is so busy that even if you're telling it is not doing anything to you. He's been given to you to fulfill all your wishes, but he's so busy because the eyes is saying something, ears saying, but you say, hey, cut off with the eyes, cut off with everything, you listen to me. Then he stands with you and says, yeah, tell me what do you want. Then you say, hey, this is what I want. Can you do that? That genie will go and do it, and that genie is your mind.
Great. But in this process, this is my question, like, are we villanifying the sensory part of ourselves? Because I think when I look at mind or a personality or the identity that we build on, it is more about the collection of all this sensory input that comes to us, and we try to make an image or a persona of a person who get identified as, let's say, Dr. Rajesh or Abhijit or anybody, Kevin, let's for example. So if these people are identified, we give that persona to him. So are we somewhere in Shunya philosophy? I just want to ask this question: that are we really making that as discredible information or information that has to be of utilitarian nature? Because what happens when we try to distrust, most of the philosophy try to distrust your sensory organs and just cut it down everything as possible, because I think it's a kind of a bridge. We can't cut the bridge entirely. Yeah, definitely. As when we go to Shunya Samadhi, we can reduce the traffic on the bridge. We can see the bridge, the utility of the bridge. We can't have that as we can't burn that bridge. We always say that don't burn the bridges because they are really important. So when you talk about sensories and in Shunya Samadhi or philosophy, are we villanifying those or are we making them as a friend more?
No, we are letting them perform better.
Okay.
With the eye not knowing what to see, it will see everything it gets to see.
Right.
And then that kind of inputs, it's imagine, if you are browsing and everything you browse is stored in your computer.
Yeah.
You're gone for a toss. You'll have to, how long will that computer work?
Right.
Your eyes are browsing everything. And if it goes on taking every sensory input, you'll be overwhelmed. Same is with your ears. So mind comes up with a very nice, quality of its, is that it knows how to mask.
Right.
So if something is in a loop and repetitive, it just shuts it down. It does not let it even affect you. Like the fridge makes noise in your house, but how often do you hear it? It's gone. People staying near the railway line, they hear the train going every day. Because it's an everyday affair, they cannot hear it. But somebody new going there and staying, he would have a sleepless night.
Right.
You understand? So same is with, the mind. When the senses are going astray, then these every input, because it's a new input, it keeps on taking.
Right.
But once it knows to be focused, it knows that this is it, and the awareness just increases. And the eyes, they see better. They're able to see what the mind needs to see. Then where they will see even the good side in all the bad things that are happening. Okay, then automatically hope, positivity, it comes in. Okay, the ears, they will be able to hear what it needs to hear, not negative things. It will know how to mask and cut off what it doesn't. But this all happens when you condition your mind, and through your mind, your senses, to be on the focus that it needs to be, to be on the goal that it has gone on. So it's not devilling or villaining the mind. Sorry, the senses. It is actually empowering them to be laser focused in the job that needs to be done. So somebody who's got a very clear focus in mind, you try to distract them, they will never get distracted, because nor with their senses, because now the mind is restraining all the senses. And when there is no mind, the mind itself is moving here and there. What about the senses? They are wandering here and there. And you see many people, they were very sharp and focused when they were early in their life. They had a direction. Life moves them a little bit here and there, and they are completely off track. And after, say, 10-15 years, you meet them and you see you have a shock of your life. Hey, yeah, you were so talented. You were so amazing at that time. What have you done with your life? They've lost the reins of restraint of the senses. The mind is completely gone. The senses have gone, and you can see a messed up life. But you see the other way around. There are people who had messed up life. They have been able to achieve so much, and we say, that's magical. How did you do that? Then you realize the guy had complete focus, was completely dedicated. He let go of so many things and only ventured into one thing to make it successful, and remained focused on that. So that's how it is.
Why I asked this question, because lot many spiritual practices which actually go forward and say that whatever your senses bring in, don't trust them. Don't make them as a part of your identity. Don't make them as a part of your a reality perception. Make it as a part of your delusion. And when a person get weakened in his own perception of the world, he becomes far more lost than being far more focused. And as you said earlier, that the equilibrium, and always it comes back to that particular part, that we are not going to go to extremes. We are not even going to, even if it seems like our mind is playing games with us, and we're not going to villainify it. Because a lot of our spiritual practices go forward and make those sensitive, like your eyes are like, they are like just wandering here and there, and they're lusting on other people's body. That is what the term that have been utilized. And somewhere we feel like, yeah, if those eyes were not there, I would have been a pure soul. But
No, but
the reality,
then the blind men should all be
all
pure soul.
yeah.
The deaf should be all pure soul. The one who don't have taste should be all pure. Post-COVID, that was the biggest problem.
So that kind of delusion, what I feel like, someone who is an influential in society and who makes such kind of a claim, and that's why somewhere people have lost the credibility of the spiritual wisdom that is there embedded. And after wandering for such a long time, because I have been practicing a lot in spiritualism, why it felt like Shunya philosophy talks a lot directly to me, because it is very direct. It is not. It is like no BS.
As it is.
As it is.
So that's exactly when the senses see things as it is, when they interact with things as it is, without having a preconceived idea or concept. It's then you're not you cannot like you overlap
Superimposed on
superimpose your past experience over your current experience. If that happens, then you have a wrong experience. But if you experience something as it is now, this is bliss. You understand?
Right.
If something gets superimposed over this now, that is either suffering or a kind of another trap of pleasure, which is not true. So when people talk about senses, they talk about the senses that hold the previous senses or experience and then judge the present one. No, you should not do that. You should let the present experience be the present experience. The past is past. Okay. Only post the present experience, when it becomes the past, you take the two past and compare.
Wow.
You understand?
No, but yeah, that is very enlightening altogether. So now this is coming to the new hype word that is there into the market called as mindfulness. Okay, a lot of people are getting this into market, that mindfulness program is there. And how I think this has been invented long way back. It was there. It's just been now, thrown into the market, and a lot of people are working on that. So how Shunya philosophy talks about mindfulness. A lot of practices, a lot of techniques that have been utilized where you are going back to your breath work. You're doing your breath work. You're also having certain kind of thinking or cognitive patterns which you are disrupting, so that you would come to a less filtered version of your reality, and questioning your beliefs, which are non-rational or non-helpful, and making like REBT and CBT, as you have been into psychology, so you are aware of those. How that particular philosophy, is it like congruent with Shunya philosophy? Definitely it has to be. Or is it what I can say, more diluted version, or how it would be?
Well, the word mindfulness is so much commonly used, to replace the true word called awareness.
Yeah.
Okay, because people's minds are already full. What kind of mindfulness will you be doing? It's more about being careful, being aware of what you're doing. So when you are careful of what you're doing, when you're aware of what you're doing, you will do it better. Like, for example, if you're running, you are aware that you're running, you'll run better. But if you're walking, you are aware that you're walking. That will make that walking better. Means you will not stumble. When you're sitting, you are sitting. Then you will not. When you're aware you're sitting and you're sitting straight, you will remain straight. So as soon as you are not aware, you will couch. Right? It's in awareness that you maintain that particular rhythm, that particular posture, that particular act. And awareness is the key. Mindfulness is wrongly translated. And when they practice mindfulness, they say, okay, now when you're drinking your coffee, take the cup in your hand, you hold the ball, you feel the warmth. That's practicing of feeling.
Right.
So Buddha very clearly said the 5 practices that can lead you nowhere or are the obstacles in your awareness are first the practice on visualization. If you visualize something that is not there, or you have image, or you have pictures and all those things, and practicing on that will take you nowhere. So I sit in front of an idol and I worship this idol and think this is the idol that is going to give me everything. It's wrong. It's not going to give you anything. Just an attachment to an idol or to an image. So first is rupa, then comes vedana. Vedana means feelings. If you practice on feelings, no way you're going to be liberated, because feelings will all lead to suffering.
Right.
Okay. So definitely you cannot practice on rupa, that's the body or the things out there through the senses. Then second is feelings. Then third one is idna saudhnya, means your concepts. If you have a concept and you practice on the concepts for liberation, nowhere you're going to go, because concepts will just put you into another concept, right? Then fourth one is sanskara or conditioning. The conditioning will just condition you. So the art of not getting conditioned again and again with the previous conditioning is the art of awareness, because awareness tells you this is what is the conditioning and this is what you're doing now. Are you okay with it? If you're okay with it, you allow. If you're not okay with it, you don't allow. Like I come from a family where conditionally, my father being an alcoholic, the tendency for me to get inclined towards addiction was there. So when addiction came in, I fell prey to it. But when awareness came in, every time this addiction used to say that, do you want to be addicted? I said, no. I said, no. And he said, no, what about today? I said, no. What about today? No. What about the next one? I said, no. I kept guard on the conditioning and I did not let it happen. So same is the fifth one, it says Vigyan, the idea of self. This self itself can be so misleading, In the process of liberating yourself, you will be actually binding yourself and bonding yourself into misery more. Because the I that comes with the self is absolutely an obstacle in your awareness. So awareness is not about I. Awareness is about everything that where I am in.
In.
Yeah. So awareness shows you that while with the eyes you see here, but with your awareness you can see behind your back also. So there you see those Zen masters who are like the samurai soldiers, you know. They say that they had eyes in front and eyes back.
Behind as well.
Yeah, they could sense everything. When your senses can sense everything, that means you're in awareness. That means, so don't use the word mindfulness because that is completely corrupted, where everything they're doing slowly and they're putting in effort to do that. You should have an effortless mindfulness practice, that you see things effortlessly. And this is called as sati. And that's why, according to the Sati Pathan Sutta, it's an art of cultivating your sati, your awareness of you, your things, everything that is happening to you and happening through you. And if you can cultivate that awareness, that's your true liberation.
Wow. I would like you to recall that one example that you have given to me when we had a conversation last week, I guess. It was talking about the instance with Angulimal. And when Buddha was there,
Yeah.
he was actually afraid and he has not shown it.
Yeah.
And then you talked about the visualization,
Yeah.
that how he would visualize himself and not got into that particular phase. And then he kept on walking. That is the bravery. It doesn't mean that Buddha was not afraid. He had that feeling because we already have that kind of a aura built up about spiritually awakened masters, that these people would be cut. They have cut
They're
all the
superhuman.
times. Superhumans, superhumans, and that's why it is unachievable.
Yeah.
Because that's the difference that happens. Because when we see Buddha, okay, my God, so much of monuments, so much of literature, so many people worshipping them. How am I ever able to achieve that standard?
Yeah.
And it is not about becoming Buddha; it is becoming Buddha-like. Because we have lot much of differentiation. Right? It becomes a like, then you have your own version of that, right?
Absolutely.
So I would like you to
So
bring
that's from the Agamas. The Agamas are another compilation of Indian sutras, especially the words of Buddha recorded in real time. At that time, Buddha gave a nice teaching. He said that when fear and dread come to you, okay, be aware of it. Okay, so when he's giving an example, if you're sitting in a jungle and a tree branch just falls, okay, and fear and dread comes into you, don't get up. Stay there. Okay. Let the fear and dread go away. Then get up. You're walking in the jungle and you hear something in the bushes around you. Don't stop walking. Continue walking. When that fear and dread has gone away from you, then you can stop and watch. Okay. So when I saw this, I liked it so much because this is a complete sutra. And I said that, did Buddha apply it? Then I got to know that, yeah, during one of the instances where he was going through a village and everybody said, don't go into the village. There's this great dacoit, a murderer called Anguli Mala. He will be there. He's just slaughtering people and he's now in search of his last 100th person. And you might be that person, so stay away. So he says, okay, let me see, And he doesn't, even though maybe, I'm not sure, but maybe fear would have come. If I look at him as a human being, he would have felt, okay, they are giving me this information, take it, let's see. Okay. And then he continues his path because he had left for, asking the bhiksha or to beg for food. And if he stops, that means that fear and dread won over. He did not let that happen. He continued his walk in the village. Then everything was closed. And from back, one person, the Angulimal, yells and shouts at him, hey, you stop. I'm telling you to stop. But he continues with his philosophy. Even though fear and dread came in, he continued walking. The guy got pissed off, Angulimal, that even after me telling him this man is not having any fear and dread, goes all the way in front of him, looks into his eye and says, when I'm telling you to stop, why don't you stop? He says, I stopped long time back. Now it's time for you to stop. Then he is shocked because for the first time he sees a person without fear and dread in their eye. He could see somebody who was liberated, who was not afraid to lose his life through him. And he knew that the only savior who could pass on that quality, that fearlessness to him was Buddha. And then definitely the story continues. He becomes one of the greatest disciples and monks. Even today, when pregnant women want to deliver their child, they say that they chant Angulimala's name so that they can relieve the child, that actually the child is born from his good virtues that he practiced.
Right.
Okay, so they say that because he killed so many people's life, he says, if I've done good in my practice, let every woman who bears or gives a child live and live for long. So they chant his name, Angulimal's name.
Wow, that's really depth.
Yeah.
And then the sutra, because I had this particular kind of fascination when it comes to spiritual enlightened people, and they had that kind of an aura and image that has been built and which is unachievable. And when you entirely think, you get dismotivated and you get so much disgruntled onto the fact that this is humanly not possible.
Like the fox on the grapes.
Grapes, yeah, it's like,
Because you cannot achieve it, it's sour.
and then definitely you make a conclusion because that is what our mind is
Yeah,
designed for.
yeah.
That is a bias that we walk with.
Yeah.
That whatever is not achievable, it is I. The only thing is like inward that I'm not able or not enough
Capable, yeah.
capable enough to get it, or the world is bad.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
is the only thing. But let's say it's a grape. Then when we visualize, we'll take that emotion like Buddha, and we just be still at that point of time
Yeah.
because he knows that. And the same thing are there into psychological orders that if the emotion comes in, watch it, name it, categorize it, let it rose because everything that can rose has a downfall.
Absolutely.
It doesn't has a kind of an don't keep on going up and up. It doesn't have kind
Nothing
of
will.
yeah. It
Nothing
don't
will,
have a
because that
downfall.
is dhamma.
Yeah.
That is dharma. Dharma says that everything that will be born will
Grow.
actually develop, then will sustain,
And
then will
multiply.
decay, and then will die. Everything. And if you look at it, it's nothing but a wave.
Wave.
It's a wave.
Right.
We are nothing but a part of the wave.
We call
Okay.
it as earth surfing.
Yeah.
In psychological terms, we call it as earth surfing because once the emotions are there, they will have a peak, and
Yes.
to build a resilience
Yeah.
around it. That even if I get angry, I have to see that anger. Even
Yeah.
I'm getting lusty, I have to see that lust. And once I'm able to build that resilience, because it will always last almost like 60 to 90 seconds on a normal person's mind if it is there. And once you are able to surpass that kind of an urge, it will subside down.
Yeah.
And this is where, and then you keep on, where Buddha say, keep on walking. Keep
But
whatever.
you see, how do you develop the skill to observe?
Yeah.
How? How will
Okay.
you? You cannot. Yeah.
That-
Without Shunya, it cannot.
yeah, without that, because unless and until you don't have that kind of strength, that
No, training.
resilience.
You need training, right? You want to climb Mount Everest. You need to train yourself for climbing Mount Everest. You cannot just say, okay, because I know climbing, I'll climb Mount Everest. Halfway through, maybe at the very early stage only, you will give up. It is a conditional practice. You need to develop that kind of practice within yourself to observe. And that is why we call this practice the Vipassana practice. Vipassana means we, specially, Pasyana means to see. To have the ability to see specially.
Wow. So coming to the next question that I had is like, when it comes to when I see like when I've come to this particular retreat or center, I felt a different way of the environment has been built up because I felt it is a Buddhist philosophical driven as you said earlier. And when I came into this facility, I thought of there would be a lot of big posters and ideals of Buddha would be there, and there would be certain kind of ritual that would be happening. And when I sat over here, and the only thing that happened over here as a ritual was conversation
Yeah.
and idea exchange, making it more clearer. The same thing, the sharpening of it, because I think it is always dynamic and static,
Yeah.
as you said, and it stuck to me. Definitely, it's a dynamic and static. What is dynamism in you? What is static in you? What is dynamism? What is static? So that kind of culture that is there, because I think we are at the verge of having a culture which is more of center focus of a person, which is only talking about how I can make myself more fortified in terms of not getting penetrated by the issues that are there around, and not being serving to other person but more being served or entitled. When it comes to the society and the community and Shunya philosophy, when it comes in, when I talk about group dynamism and group activities that are there and the environment, that the word culture has to be there. But I felt that this is the environment that has been required by each and every company that is trying to strive. Because unless and until you don't have a conversation, unless and until you don't have, let's talk, at least let's talk, let's have a conversation, and a conversation which doesn't have any kind of prejudice, any kind of entitlements, any kind of hierarchical outflow from top to bottom or bottom to top. This kind of culture, when it comes to Shunya Foundation and how we are planning it to get through from this environment to the society, and how we are making this as a part of a society, what kind of initiative you guys are putting in. I know that there are a lot of centers that you guys are coming up, there are a lot of initiatives. But if the audience who are listening to us, they want to get associated with this and want to experience this as a first hand, how you want them to understand this process.
Yeah. So thanks to our founder and our
Mm.
patron, Dr. Lim, Dr. Lim Jin, and his enterprise DXN, we have been able to now support a lot of activities of Shunya.
Mm.
We do mega gatherings, like the previous one we did just recently was in Bodh Gaya,
Mhm.
where we had almost around 15,000 people come together, sit
Mhm.
and meditate.
Wow.
No chanting, no mantra, nothing, no idol, no statue, just sit and
Mhm.
converse
Mhm.
and meditate. And then now, on the 21st of September this month,
Mhm.
we have another big gathering of 6,000 people from Nepal and northern India and Bhutan and Bangladesh.
Mm.
They will be coming together for another mega gathering where
Mm.
we will all sit together and again meditate.
Right.
Conversation and
Mm.
meditation.
Mm.
So, conversation is where you're talking and listening, and meditation where we are at pause. You understood?
Dynamic,
So, there are
static.
dynamic, static, emptiness. But on the other side, we are also giving free training, and none of our training is like an cost, because
Mm.
this is basically not our proprietary,
Mm. Mm.
formula or a technique.
Mm.
This comes all the way from Buddha.
Mm.
He is the one. If any credit needs to be given, give him all the credits below,
Right. True.
right? So this is, you can say, a free to use and free to learn tool that we are sharing with everybody. We
Mm.
have these 7 steps,
Mm.
and you can find us on www.sifworld.com,
Mhm.
and we have shunyati.org as an organization also. So if you search Shunya, you will find somebody there,
Mhm.
somewhere in the world, practicing and also teaching and offering this service free of cost.
Mhm.
When it comes up to the way we want to share this is beyond only individuals and improving their life. We want to also make this into a part of a family thing where families become better. Then we want to help this into organizations with corporate trainings as being a part of it, where corporates, where minds come together and work in sync, will improve the productivity, will improve their service, will improve them as an organization. That's another thing that we're looking at.
Right.
We are also looking at educational institutions where teachers which are influencing kids and kids which are all together working as one sangha, trying to learn from the
Mhm.
teacher, they
Mhm.
also practice this sync meditation, wherein the teacher and the students sync with each other,
Mhm.
and there can be a transformation in education field also. So if you see, look at the application of Shunya is everywhere. So remember the zero, it has got space in every calculation, in every equation,
Right.
and yet it doesn't disturb anything.
Anything.
It remains there without disturbing anything, without adding anything, without subtracting anything, but it does add value.
Value.
It does add
Very true.
value.
Wow, very great. Because I actually resonated with the fact that most of us are definitely we are fulfilled with ambitions, and definitely every human being supposed to live their highest potential, as Jim Carrey said, that let everybody in this world have the ultimate and the peak of whatever potential, money, prosperity, everything, fame. If they want to achieve it, let them achieve it, and then they want to see it that there was nothing. Because unless and until you don't achieve it, you can't visualize or fascinate about it. You have to really go to the, you have to have a full pedal on the floor, and you have to zoom towards it. And how it happened? By sharpening your mind.
Mhm.
Because unless and until you are not utilizing the only tool that has been given to you, and which is the most powerful tool in the entire universe, and it is very much evident that how human civilization has utilized that, and how those tools have been utilized. Because as you were talking earlier, that we only have 24 hours.
Yeah,
Everybody is so equal that if we say equality in true nature is that everybody has 24 hours.
yeah,
Okay, how you can say who is unequal? Everybody has 24 hours, but the only differentiation of a person would happen that is he utilizing that 24 hours Buddha like or not? If he is able to do it, definitely the all the treasures and the treasure of your wildest dream would come to you. And it is not about only the materialistic, but also the spiritual growth that you are trying to, imbibe in yourself. That is also there. And when we discussed that Dr. Lim has actually put in all the sutras
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in his business model, and that was so. Uh, I was like blown out.
Like when you're saying, let me quote the Heart Sutra that says, Shunyata hi Rupa,
Hmm.
Rupa hi Shunyata.
Hmm.
Means what is in your mind when it is absolutely undisturbed
Hmm.
will manifest into Rupa.
Right.
Whatever is in the Rupa will go and feed the mind.
Mind.
And so let what your Rupa is be a satisfaction point, Samadhan.
Samadhan.
So when you are happy and satisfied with the world that is manifested, you will make sure that the mind is stable. And because your mind is stable, it will create another world, whatever you want. So this cycle continues, And
Right.
this is a very famous sutra, the Heart Sutra,
Hmm.
that talks about the two worlds, the world of nothingness and the world of everything.
Right. Wow. So can you just give me the sutra? Like you have just given me the
Yes.
7 steps how Dr. Lim has actually talked
Yeah.
about. You talked about there is a dukkha, and
Yeah.
then dukkha there is a solution, and then how he have built all those products.
So he let's say he understood the Four Noble Truths.
Yeah.
Okay, then he saw that the first noble truth is that the samsara is full of dukkha, right?
Right.
So many negative thinking people will take it in a very pessimistic way, But an optimistic person like Dr. Lim sees what a Buddha sees. He says, yeah, the samsara is full of dukkha. Means for a businessman who was into the health and wellness, he saw the world is full of sickness, the illness. Okay, there is an opportunity. Okay, if there is sickness and illness, there has to be a cause to this.
Right.
Okay, so that was the second truth that Buddha found out. If there is dukkha, there has to be a cause to it. Same Dr. Lim saw. If there is sickness and illness, there has to be a cause to it.
Right.
Then, if there is a cause to it, there has to be a solution to it also. So the third one was, if there is a cause, there is a way in which you can manage that cause and find a solution.
Right.
So he also knew if there is a cause to all the illnesses that is happening around in the world, there has to be a way in which you can get out of it. And then the fourth one was, this is the path that he teaches, the Eightfold Path. And that is the fourth noble truth. So Dr. Lim said, okay, then this is the way you can get out of it. So my Ganodama mushroom, my spirulina supplements, all these things is the way. So if you follow the way, you end yourself from the cycle of illness. And then you only live without all this illness. And then hence preventive healthcare became his motto. And he defined his company with 3 principles: health, wealth that follows your health, and happiness that you get because of health and wealth.
Wow. So this is like a complete circle that you would be able to achieve once you're in the momentum of the Four Noble Truths.
Yeah.
And we are talking about the
Eightfold Path. Yeah.
Ashtang Marg that we talked about. So if I want to talk directly to my audience, that this is not the spiritualism for the kings.
Yeah.
They talked about that. Buddhism is all about kings' renunciation of their wealth and going back to spiritualism. But when you talk about spiritualism in the right sense, it is about kingmakers. So the philosophy which is going to get you to the ultimate point of your wealth, prosperity, and fame, that is how it is going to make you prosper. That is what Shunya philosophy is all about. It is not about denouncing everything. Yeah, definitely, it is if your choice. Definitely, we won't allow. We won't stop there. But definitely, if that is going to give you the prime happiness that is there, that what you're seeking for, definitely it is allowed, because we don't believe in any kind of restrictions. We don't want any no's coming in that particular way. Yes, it is all yes, all about that. So that is one thing that I have been very fascinated about, and I felt kind of a connectedness, instant one, because I was happy that yes, it is supporting the kind of world that I'm looking forward for.
You look at Buddha, he always says you should be like a lion.
Yeah.
Roar on all 4 sides. That's why you see the emblem of India is also the 4 lions, roaring. Now, lion, is he miserable?
None of us would agree that.
Lion is the king.
King. Yeah.
If Buddha is telling you to become a king and roar everywhere, means go and show yourself. Don't live in a timid way.
Right.
Live with prosperity.
Right.
Achieve all your dreams. Live the fullest of life. Do not need to be a timid mouse in some hole, sacrificing everything and then saying that you could get nothing, Don't be a meager survival. Be a prosperous, thriving king, And that's what Buddha wanted everybody to be, a king.
Right. And I think that was the culture in India embedded,
Yeah.
because every king used to bow down to a sage
Yeah.
in that particular part. It was not because of uh, the person who is like cladded with gold and all those things, and he is bowing down to a sage who is actually nothing, is a zero valued person, but against Shunya. Why he is bowing down to Shunya? Because then the value of that kingness will
You
be
know the
more.
power of zero. If somebody gives you a blank check, okay, and tells no,
Mm,
somebody tells you that I'm going to give you a blank check,
mm,
but you tell me the numbers and I'll write.
mm,
Okay, so he writes. He'll say I'll write only one number. The rest of the numbers will be zero.
mm,
So he says I write one.
mm,
Huh? Then how many zeros you want? Then you say one is enough.
mm,
You'll say no, 10 rupees what?
mm,
Then one more zero.
mm,
100. No, 100 what? You put on zero. Every time he's adding a zero,
mm.
it increases your value.
Right.
I'm again telling you this is because people do not understand the power of the shunya. The shunya
Mm,
power is
mm,
where your both static and dynamic energy come together. It's the meeting point.
right.
It's that point wherein
Mm,
real transformation happens,
right.
where somebody just gets amazed. How is that happening? It's
Mm,
like two stones. Two stones do not have fire in it,
right.
but they rub each other and rub each other to a point where there is a friction
Mm,
and a spark comes out,
mm,
and that can light up the whole fire.
mm,
So similarly, between your dynamic and your static energies,
mm,
between all the lethargy that you have, where you don't want to do anything, where
mm,
you have all the desires and dream, where you want to go and pursue something, get up, fight your laziness, and take up your energy in the right
mm,
direction.
right.
You will be able to bring that
Mm,
spark in you, and you
right.
can light up a fire for sure.
Right. So I was in that particular kind of realm when we talked about this, that all spiritualism would be gravitating towards becoming zero
Mm.
at financial or bank statement as well.
Hmm.
But I think when we understand the true value, and that is the line within you, I think this is where and everybody doesn't desire a Mercedes.
Yeah,
That's the uniqueness, because if we say everybody desire, the ultimate wealth definition is like having or possessing a Mercedes or having a penthouse or all those things. They would be all booked and all gone.
absolutely,
The thing is, like, we have so much of variety of dreams and so many varieties of car, because everybody desires something else.
absolutely.
So there won't be everything would be there.
Yeah,
Everybody have enough. As Gandhiji said, that there is everybody, like there is all there is there for everybody's need,
yeah,
but not for everybody's greed.
definitely not.
So I think with this particular equilibrium that we talked about and this podcast, and always wanted to have bringing whatever we had in embedded in our soil, and as a wisdom seed, when we put that seeds into the soil, and the soil are already enriched with all the knowledge that is required,
Yeah,
it is very positive. It is not toxic positive, but it is very nurturing, I would say. It is more nurturing than positive, because as a seed requires to sprout out to become its full capacity, Indian culture and wisdom already have that in their soil.
yeah.
The only thing remains that there is always said that insight is not the road of liberation.
Hmm.
Insight is only able to see it, but what would liberate you is the action.
Yeah.
So the more you act on it, the more you would do it daily, because it's like walking on the rope.
Hmm.
Every day you would be born, and it is like you're starting from a zero,
Yeah,
and then you end up in a zero. So every day you are going to walk on the rope. And while walking on the rope, the one stick that you require a counterbalance is the shunya.
yeah.
That would require you to keep calm when you're walking through the miseries, the anxiety, the depression that is coming along, because dukkha is there, as Buddha said, noble
No,
truth, right?
no way out.
No way out. You don't have a way out. So how are you going to do it?
So we say, Buddha says in one of the verses,
Hmm.
choose your suffering, because there is suffering.
Suffering,
Just choose which one you want.
which you want.
The one that is going to give you liberation,
Mhm.
the one that you can ready to, sacrifice your time and effort for.
Hmm.
Like for example, somebody knows that I want to be a great footballer. I
Hmm.
want to play football. What suffering will he choose? Getting up every day in the morning, taking the ball and going and play, going here and there, playing with everyone. That's suffering for somebody who doesn't like to play football. He said, what kind of foolish person this is? He's suffering.
Right.
But he's choosing his suffering, and one day he will be liberated.
Right.
You understood?
Right.
Similarly, what is the suffering that we are choosing, where we test at two parameters, that is patience and endurance? Which one is it? We
Right.
should ask ourselves.
Hmm. Wow. So I think we have come to the end of our podcast, and I never wanted to be. I wanted to be continued as long as we can. And definitely, this is not the only podcast that we are hosting. There will be a lot of instances where I would come back to Dr. Savera to talk about any of the issues and any of the topic which would be, even demanded by you guys. If you like, the comment section is open, so you can suggest that whichever topic that you feel like that this is something that Dr. Savera and Shunya Philosophy can talk on. Whatever principle that we have talked on, any elaboration on those particular principle was required, we can definitely build a next episode on that. And even if that is not happening, definitely site of Shunya, International Foundation is there. You can go and browse on the resources that are there, and even you can come to the center. I think every Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 12, I think, the center is open, and even the Facebook lives are really very insightful, because Dr. Lim and the kind of explanation he has, it is totally profound. It is like, and I think we have like close to like 81 verses that you guys
Today
have.
we finished 81 verses,
Translating it and talking over it. So I think this would be an ongoing journey for everybody who would attach. Nobody is left alone. I think you can start from anywhere. It is like, see, wherever you taste it, it is going to taste saltier. So wherever, if you come to this particular part, you are going to reach to only one point. And no matter where you start your journey, it is never too late. And it is never too early. You have to start it. So even if you are 18 years old, or you are 60 or 65 years old, and if you think that this has made sense to you, and mindfulness and sharpening your knife is something that is on your agenda, and you want to live the fulfilled life that you are always dreamt of, whether it would be an individual, on a personal ground, or even in the professional grounds, this technique only would work for you if you practice it and apply it. The insight never give you the path of enlightenment. It is only about the practice that you put into. So I would like to thank everybody who has been listening to us, and especially to Dr. Savera sir for giving his insight.
Thank you so much.
To the entire team over here who have been patiently going through this entire process, and definitely you'll be coming back for more.
So thank you so much. Thank you.
I remember way back when you and I were just pretend. I thought I was in love.